Most school lockdowns are drills everyone has practiced before. Students already know exactly what to do in those moments. Lights go off, doors are locked, and everyone stays silent. You sit quietly, waiting for the announcement to end. Most of the time, it's just another routine safety exercise. But sometimes a lockdown isn't practice at all. Sometimes the tone in the announcement feels different. The voice sounds rushed, strained, and slightly afraid. In that moment, the fear becomes real. You realize this situation wasn't planned. Something has gone wrong. Somewhere in the building. The room suddenly feels much smaller than before. Every sound seems louder than it should be. You start thinking about the door you're hiding behind. The door might be protecting you right now, or it might be trapping you with no escape. Each of these schools went into lockdown unexpectedly. In one case, staff later admitted how close it truly came. Midwestern United States, around 2008. This happened on a Friday afternoon near the end of the day. It was 7th period calculus, right before spring break. No one was paying attention or taking class seriously. Even the teacher could tell everyone was distracted. He decided to ease up and let us play online trivia games. The classroom became loud, casual, and full of laughter. It felt like a normal, harmless end-of-week class. Then the loudspeaker suddenly turned on. The dean's voice sounded rushed and unsteady. He said this was not a drill. Teachers were told to initiate lockdown immediately. The entire room went completely silent. Our teacher shut off the lights without hesitation. He motioned for us to move quietly to the back corner. We sat on the floor, shoulder to shoulder, saying nothing. Minutes passed, and no one explained what was happening. About 2 minutes later, the power went out entirely. Whether it was intentional or not, we never found out. That's when panic slowly started to settle in. The darkness made everything feel more serious. A few more minutes passed in complete silence. Then we heard screaming in the hallway. A man was yelling somewhere outside the classroom. His voice sounded uncontrolled and unpredictable. The screaming moved closer with each second. He began slamming violently into lockers. The metal echoed loudly through the halls. Every crash made us flinch in fear. Then he shouted something I'll never forget. He said he would kill all of us. 2 students near me quietly started crying. My hands were shaking without me realizing it. I kept thinking there was nowhere to run. Suddenly, the banging stopped outside our room. The door handle began rattling aggressively. The door shook under the force. Everyone held their breath in terror. Then, without warning, it stopped. The footsteps slowly moved away down the hallway. We stayed frozen, afraid to move or speak. About 10 minutes later, the loudspeaker came back on, breaking the heavy silence in the room. The dean explained that an unstable man had entered the building, and the danger was not yet fully understood. A staff member had been assaulted near the front office, confirming that what we feared had already become real. They didn't know if the man was armed, which made the situation feel even more dangerous. Police searched the school, but they couldn't find him anywhere inside the building. Classes eventually resumed, but every door remained locked, keeping everyone on edge. But the most unsettling part didn't happen immediately. It came quietly, later that evening, lingering in everyone's mind. Staff reported that a man had been found asleep in a storage area, raising more questions than answers. He matched the intruder's description exactly, making it clear that the danger had never fully left the building. Some claimed they saw what looked like a firearm in his possession, which made everyone uneasy and on high alert. Before the police even had a chance to return, the man had vanished completely, leaving only questions and unease behind. Local news briefly mentioned the lockdown, giving only a few details before moving on to other stories. No detailed follow-up was ever released, leaving everyone with unanswered questions and lingering fear. At the time, we truly thought that was the worst lockdown anyone could experience, never imagining what might come next. At the time, we truly believed that, feeling a heavy sense of relief that it was finally over. But we were completely wrong, realizing that what we feared most was only the beginning of something far more unsettling. That fear would soon feel minor by comparison, as even worse events were waiting to unfold. Other schools would face something even worse. proving that the danger wasn't limited to just one place. And those stories are just as real, each one a chilling reminder of how quickly safety can vanish. The next one happened during lunch, catching everyone completely off guard in the middle of their day. Southern California, early 2000s. This took place during lunch on a rainy afternoon. Students were spread across the campus freely, moving between buildings and enjoying a break from classes. Suddenly, loud, booming sounds echoed nearby, startling everyone and making the campus fall into uneasy silence. At first, it sounded like distant thunder, rumbling softly across the campus and blending with the rain. Then students started screaming and running, their panic spreading quickly as chaos erupted across the campus. Campus security rushed in urgently, shouting for everyone to get inside immediately for their own safety. We were pushed into the multi-purpose room quickly, crowded together as fear spread through the group. Curtains were pulled over the glass walls, blocking any view outside and adding to the tense, trapped feeling in the room. Adults stood guard at every visible exit, their serious expressions making it clear that this was no ordinary situation. No one explained what was happening, leaving everyone confused and filled with growing anxiety. I remember my heart pounding heavily, each beat echoing loudly in my chest as fear gripped me. I kept thinking there was nowhere to escape, trapped in the room with no clear way out. Some later said the noises came from law enforcement equipment, though at the time, we had no way of knowing for sure. At the time, no one knew what to believe, as rumors and fear spread faster than any clear explanation. One friend nervously asked an adult what was going on, desperate for some kind of reassurance. When he returned, his face was pale, his expression showing fear and shock that words couldn't explain. He said a man nearby had barricaded himself inside his home, creating a dangerous situation that no one fully understood yet. Authorities believed the situation was unstable, warning that any sudden movement could make things worse. Teachers mentioned that the man had been observed watching students earlier, which had already made staff uneasy. That behavior had already made staff uncomfortable, creating an atmosphere of caution and growing tension throughout the campus. We were held inside for over an hour, waiting anxiously as every minute felt longer than the last. Slowly, the room became quieter as the initial panic faded, but a lingering sense of fear remained. Conversations faded into silence, leaving only the sound of anxious breathing and the faint patter of rain outside. Phones stopped getting signal entirely, cutting us off from the outside world. The isolation made the fear feel heavier, pressing down on everyone silently. After lockdown ended, a classmate shared something disturbing that haunted us all. She had seen the same man months earlier, and the memory sent chills down her spine. He was injured, scribbling violent messages on glass, a sight that terrified anyone who saw it. Everyone assumed it was a Halloween decoration, never imagining it was real danger. After that day, no one doubted it anymore. It had become all too real. Authorities later confirmed the incident had actually occurred, leaving no room for doubt. Most details were never released publicly, keeping the full story hidden from everyone. The silence afterward felt unsettling, as if the fear still lingered in the room. Life returned to normal far too quickly, but the memory of that day stayed with us. But no one forgot that day, and its fear lingered quietly in our minds. The fear stayed long after the rain stopped, refusing to fade from memory. And the next story was even closer, making the danger feel painfully near. This one happened inside the school itself, turning a familiar place into something frightening. Not during class, but during work, catching everyone completely off guard. And someone was actually hurt, showing that this threat was terrifyingly real. The basement office, northeastern United States, around 2015. I was 22, working as a computer intern. My office was in the school basement, a quiet and mostly forgotten space beneath the building. It was quiet, isolated, and mostly forgotten, giving it an eerie sense of emptiness. But it had one serious problem, something that made it far from completely safe. It didn't have a proper door, leaving the space exposed and vulnerable to anyone entering. During lunch, the front office called me urgently, signaling that something serious was happening. The school was going into lockdown, and I knew I had to stay completely still and quiet. There was a report of an armed intruder, making the situation immediately terrifying. I turned off the lights and stayed completely still, trying not to make a sound. About 20 minutes later, the basement door creaked open, breaking the tense silence. Footsteps echoed slowly down the stairs, each one sending a shiver through me. Someone entered the office area silently, moving without making a single sound. They didn't turn on any lights, leaving the room in darkness and heightening the fear. I completely froze in place, too scared to move or even breathe. My phone vibrated with a message, making my heart race even faster. The message said police were here and that a shooting had occurred nearby. I was told not to leave the basement, staying hidden until it was completely safe. My chest tightened with fear, each breath feeling heavier than the last. I noticed the outline of a man nearby, and a surge of panic hit me instantly. He wore a red shirt and a dark cap, making his presence unmistakably clear. Panic took over instantly, leaving me frozen and unsure of what to do next. I ran toward the stairs, heart racing and adrenaline surging through me. As I reached the stairs, a loud bang echoed, making me freeze for a brief moment. It sounded exactly like a gunshot, sending a jolt of terror through me. I didn't look back at all, moving as fast as I could toward safety. When I reached the exit, police were waiting, ready to take control of the situation. The man was taken into custody moments later, ending the immediate threat. A teacher had been injured, but survived, a relief amid the chaos. News reports mentioned the lockdown briefly, giving only a glimpse of what had happened. Specific details were limited, leaving much of the incident shrouded in uncertainty. Even now, that sound stays with me, echoing in my mind whenever I think back. I don't know if it was a gunshot, but in that moment, it felt completely real. But it felt real in that moment, filling me with pure fear and urgency. That fear never fully goes away, lingering quietly long after the danger has passed. This incident didn't involve students directly, but its impact was still deeply felt. But it was the only one with real injuries, making it stand out from all the other lockdowns. And it happened in a place meant to be safe, shattering the sense of security completely. That realization is the most disturbing part, knowing safety can vanish in an instant. Schools are supposed to protect people, but sometimes even that sense of safety fails. Yet, for a moment, they couldn't, leaving everyone inside, vulnerable and scared. That truth is hard to forget, lingering in the mind long after the lockdown ends, and impossible to ignore, a haunting reminder of how quickly safety can disappear. These moments change people forever, leaving marks that time cannot erase. Even when no one talks about them, the memory quietly lingers in the background of life. The silence becomes part of the trauma, a constant reminder of what happened. And the fear lingers quietly, always present, just beneath the surface. Long after the lockdown ends, the memory and fear remain, impossible to shake. The scariest part isn't the intruders themselves, but what happens when safety disappears. It's the familiar places where it happened, the classrooms and hallways we thought were safe. Classrooms, lunchrooms, and office spaces all turned into scenes of fear in an instant. Places meant to feel safe and normal, suddenly filled with tension and dread. For a moment, they weren't safe at all, and that feeling is unforgettable. That feeling is impossible to forget, lingering in memory long after the danger passes. It stays buried in memory, quietly waiting to resurface when least expected. Waiting to resurface unexpectedly, bringing the fear back as if it never left. These were real stories from real people, experiences that actually happened, and they could happen anywhere, reminding us that no place is completely safe. If you want more real accounts like these, make sure to stay tuned and listen closely. Stories people still struggle to talk about, revealing fears most prefer to keep hidden. Make sure you subscribe our channel for more, so you don't miss any of these real-life accounts. Because some stories don't fade with time, staying with you long after you hear them. They stay with you forever, leaving a lasting impression that never truly goes away.